Thank you. I'd like to call to order the annual meeting for the Woodhaven Lakes Association, Woody Inc., and Woodhaven Lakes Realty, Sunday, August 27th, 11:30 a.m. We'll start with the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Actually, that should come from the members
Oh.
at large. So we need a motion from the members.
Do they have a copy?
Yes, it's been
Okay.
published in the paper.
Gotcha. Okay, I apologize. I need a motion from the members from the floor to approve the minutes.
To approve the minutes, Ernest Mitchell, 1679 and 80.
Perfect, thank you. Do I have a second? 12:48. Do I have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the treasurer's report. Laura, we're going to do the treasurer's report?
Do you want the treasurer's report from the finance or the annual meeting? From last year's?
From the annual meeting.
From last year?
Which one? Yes.
Okay. Okay. Laura Packwood gave a brief overview of the association's financial position of the annual report. I referenced the independent auditor's report from Whipley on page 13. I indicated that we have an unqualified opinion, which is a favorable opinion from the audit. For the fraud that was initially found in January of 2022 and subsequent fraud was found while preparing for the audit. I referenced page 15, and read through these sheets to indicate where the fraud had been placed in the audit report. I referenced page 25 to explain footnote K, which explains what was done with the fraudulent funds. Our total assets for the pending period 2022 were $34,277,315, and for the period ending 2021 were $33,751,415. Total liabilities were $8,636,936 in 2022, and $8,488,993 in 2021. On page 16, the consolidated statements of income and association equity showed a total revenue of $12,145,816 in 2022, and $11,520,114 in 2021. Operating expenses were $9,977,396 in 2022, and $9,118,954 in 2021. The year-ending association equity was $25,640,979 in 2022, and $25,262,422 in 2021. Currently, the association is very healthy and very well balanced. On page 17, our net cash flow from operating activities was $1,559,529 in 2022, and $4,178,751 in 2021. The beginning balance for our cash and cash equivalents, restricted and unrestricted, was $9,024,662 in 2022, and $4,563,183 in 2021, with an ending balance of $9,741,355 in 2022, and $9,024,662 in 2021. I referenced page 26 to review supplementary information regarding the future major repairs and replacements. End of the treasurer's report from the August 21st, 2022 meeting.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, next on the agenda is the executive director's report.
Okay, Dan, thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming today and hearing what we have to say about how the association's operated in the last year. Before I get going on my presentation, I'd like to introduce some of our staff members that are here and be available to help answer questions. But we have our General Manager of Member Services, Randy Kaler. Our General Manager of Business Services, Amy Ackert. General Manager of Maintenance Services, Greg Dimick. Recreation Director, Tim O'Loughlin. Public Safety Director, Rick Farringer. Our Utilities Certified Operator, Rusty Lindemeyer. And Scott Hansen, Facility Manager of the True Value Hardware Store and Service Center. And Mr. Owens, man behind the IT equipment and the audio equipment, keeping things running for us. But Sam Owens is our IT manager. Thank you. So in kind of preparing for today's presentation, I kind of came up with 3 words to focus on my report to you today. And the first was changes. The second is adversity. And the third is response. And so we've had some changes, we've had some adversity, and how we've responded to it is really kind of the focus of my message. So in your annual report, I want everybody should have a copy of this annual report. I want to compliment Nikki Luffelman and Heidi Holloway, who do a lot of our work in laying out all of our publication information. They also work with our messaging on our website and our app. And so they helped to put this document together. But I need you to turn to pages 11 and 12 in the report. You're going to see our organizational structure here at Woodhaven. And in the last year, we did make, I think, a rather significant change in that we created the General Manager of Maintenance Services position within this report. So as you look at this, our structure includes our Executive Director position, which is mine. And then we have 3 general managers that are covering the significant portions of our operation. And then all of that filters down. With that change we've made, our goal was to prepare Woodhaven for the future and to build a foundation to help us educate and train the future leaders of this organization. When you look at this, you're going to see numbers like 33 years, 40 years, 37 years, 36 years, 29 years in some of the positions that are here at Woodhaven. We've been here a long time. We're really happy with our experiences here. That's why we've been here this long. And we're hoping to build a foundation that allows some of the faces that you see on here that might only be 1 or 2 year, or 6 or 7 or 8 year, or 9 or 10 year employees. We're helping to build that foundation for those people to step in when it's our time to enjoy and retire and find a place like Woodhaven to go to and have fun. So that's a big change for us that occurred with our staff. And with that, there's obviously going to be some adversity, there's going to be some challenges, and what we message to our staff is to, to face those challenges and to be prepared for them, and how we respond to them and how we react to them and how we learn from those experiences is how we get better. I was going to get on my soapbox a little bit. I'm going to stay away from pendulums, guys, so don't worry about that. I might come back into that, but one of the philosophies that I try to work with, and I've worked with some of the board members about this as well, and it's really just an understanding of the term failure and success in comparison, but focusing on the word failure or fail and how you interpret failure. And I consider, in my experiences, those are probably the times that I learn the most. And I've had the cliche given to me that fail stands for your first attempt in learning. And so as we introduce these new managers into these roles, and we ask them to do things that maybe we've become accustomed to and familiar with, mistakes will be made. They will learn from those mistakes if they respond appropriately to that adversity, and that's what the environment that we're trying to produce. I go back to how that was taught to me or explained to me that the analogy is all of us, when we were born, didn't know how to walk. And I guarantee you the first time we tried to walk, we didn't have success. Some of us might have been a little more stubborn than others, might have fallen and hit our head a few times more than others. But eventually, we learned how to walk. And we learned from our mistakes and we got better. And so that's something that I want you to know that we're doing. That's more of a long-range plan for our organization. But kind of flipping from there, I want to kind of talk about some of the positive accomplishments or positive changes that occurred this past year. And kind of in line with the annual report, but we changed the look of our Woodhaven News. The feedback we've gotten has been fantastic. We love the format. It's much easier to work with. It does cost a little bit more, but I think the delivery and the production is much better, and we hope you appreciate that. We've added disc golf. We've expanded our pickleball. Unacceptable material compound has made major improvements. We added an air burner firewood processor to manage our forestry issues and to reduce our waste and our debris from getting rid of those materials. Well number 2 had a major upgrade completed in the past year, and then we've done a number of shoreline improvements, but most notably the shoreline improvement in sections 8 and 9. I'm very impressed with what the contractors were able to do and how well those changes have been working for us. As we move forward, we're going to do more planting and tree issues, but it leads into the March 31, 2023 event. Does everybody, do you remember what happened on March 31? Something about a wind? Yeah. I want to express that the majority of the gentlemen and ladies up here and the board weren't here in 2015. And they were pretty nervous when it first happened. And I want to make sure that we compliment the people responsible for that, and that would be Mr. Dimick, Mr. Farringer, and all of the other people that responded to that event. In my experience, I have the 2015 tornado, which was much more severe. This was a little less, but they handled it exceptionally well. And I guess I want them to be recognized and applauded for that effort. I'd like to say we're never going to have another one. We'll just be ready, and we'll learn from that. All right, moving on to some of the changes that occurred with our financial operations. I want to talk a little bit about the audit report and the financial details that are provided in there. So if you turn to page, we'll start on page 13 and 14 in your report, because that's where the opinion letter is provided. But what I want to kind of mention is this is the first year where we worked with a new audit firm. There were a lot of things going on which have been disclosed and you are very much aware of. We were actually in position to move on the audit before that because we do use the firm that we audited in the past for services on our IT operations and our IT equipment. But this is the first year that Clifton Larson Allen has produced this audit report and participated in the audit process. While they were doing their review, they identified a couple things that they wanted to make changes to. And those are the things that I'm going to kind of touch on and explain. But the biggest change that was made was to reclassify reserves. So in our old reporting system, reserves were reported as equity. So if you look at page 15, when I say it was reported as equity, under association equity, where you don't see anything about reserves, that's where that number was. So when you go back and look at past reports, you will see that. The interpretation that was provided from Clifton Larson Allen was that reserves are actually a future obligation. We are collecting these to take care of your assets and to address your future improvements of this property, and it should be reported as deferred income, which is a liability. So the change was discussed with us. I'm 100% in support of it. I believe the Finance Committee and Laura and the board and everybody else are equally in support of this change. I believe it is a proper reclassification. So when you look at this, you're going to see deferred income designated for future major repairs and replacements, and then it got cut off, but it says as restated, which you can see in the title. So because we made a transition in auditors, the audit team that was hired this year made a restatement of last year's documents, and that's why that's titled this way. That's a major change in how it is being reported. And then footnote J in your report goes into more detail about why that change was made and the significance of that change. So I encourage you to read through that. If you have any questions about the financial report, please do not hesitate to ask me a question or two. Also, as stated by Laura in her report, we mentioned the fraudulent activities. So when you flip back to page 15, you're going to see a receivable on the books specific to footnote K. So at the end of March 31, 22, we had reported a receivable from insurance of $330,000. By the end of March 23, we had reduced that to $67,191. And then footnote K explains what happened shortly after the end of the fiscal year. On April 7th, we received the full balance of our claim plus approximately $11,000 in additional funds. We are currently due a deductible, and that has been filed with the state's attorney's office and in an ongoing investigation, criminal investigation that continues. So that information is provided in footnote K, and again, if there are any questions on that, we can elaborate further on that as well. Right below footnote K is footnote L. This is an additional footnote that's been added by Clifton Larson Allen. It is essentially a repeat of the information that's on pages 26, 27, 28, and 29. However, this is a much cleaner format for you to look at. So this shows you what each of those reserve dollars, how they are allocated and what they are intended to be used for. And so it shows you the additions during the year, the changes during the year, and the ending balance, which ties out to the reserve balance of $15,331,511. Again, more information to help you better understand where your funds are and what they're being used for. Now that's a lot of the changes that occurred. I want to focus and turn your focus back onto what didn't change. What didn't change is we got a clean opinion. We continue to get a clean opinion. Our financial statements are very well documented. They're very well presented. I will condition that to understand that in audit terms, the clean opinion doesn't mean they're good or bad. It means you can rely on them and they are accurate. And that's essentially what an audit is designed to do, is to provide you with information that shares how you're doing as an organization, and then it's up to you to interpret how you feel about that information and how that affects you. With regard to the reclassification, total assets did not change. So if you turn back to page 15 and you go back and look at last year's report, it will have the same number of total assets, $34,277,315. It's the breakdown of the equity and the liability that's changed, but your total assets did not change. And if you look at page, gotta go to the front for my supplemental schedule, but if you turn to page 8, you get a little bit more breakdown of how we operated and some of the changes that occurred and how they filtered through the income statement. So I want to touch on that. We show the March 22 statement as restated, and then the March 23 includes that. So at the bottom of there, you're going to see a negative number for those 2 years. That's the addition to reserves that occurred. Now, I know sometimes it's confusing when it's a negative number. You say, well, why is that an addition? Well, it's not income, but it was increasing our liabilities. Now, as we move through our planning going forward, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that shortly, but your budget planning in the future for the age of your roads, your aquatic facilities, our water and sewer system, all of these things are approaching age limits that are going to require some attention in the next 10 to 15 years. This number will not always be this direction. It may change, and we'll be able to report to you and explain to you why it is, but that's why we build up reserves to even out expenses and keep your assessment stable. For the year, we ended up with an operating equity increase of $355,785. We got positive returns from water and sewer, the True Value Hardware Store, and Woodhaven Lakes Realty, and you can see those numbers above. But all of them, with the exception of Realty, fell just a touch short of its budget projection, but all of them are favorable to budget. And those are positive things, and our goal as an organization is not to necessarily make money, it's to manage your money and cover your costs at as close to zero or break even as we can get. All right. Man, my report's getting long, Dan.
I wasn't gonna say it out loud, don't worry.
Well, I mean, my next comment is to compliment you and the board, so.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Like change with our organizational structure, like change with our financials, we've had changes on our board. Last year's board was elected, 3 new members, never been involved with the board before. One less than a year, and so we had some, uncertainty and some adversity. They've done a fantastic job in growing and understanding that, and I want to emphasize to them that I know I can be hard to deal with. Ask Mr. Kaler. If you were at the volunteer dinner, you know what I'm talking about. But we're all on the same page with what we want. We have the same goals. We have the same objectives. And hopefully they see the passion that we have as a staff, which I believe they do. I begin to see the passion that they have as board members. And I want to emphasize that they're making positive progress with these new challenges. At the end of the day, they're volunteers. And we got a lot more volunteers that are part of our foundation and our basis here. And what they have to deal with and what they deal with is somewhat difficult, and I'm very happy that they're willing to read reports. Because I know most of you don't want to come out here and read a 54-page audit report or a budget document that's an inch thick or maybe an inch and a half thick, depending on the year. But these folks do, and I want to let Dan, Chris, Charlie, Laura, Harry, John, and Diane know how much I appreciate your time and commitment to this. I really, really like how the volunteer dinner went last week. I really appreciate that you took the time to share your experiences with that group, and that's kind of a resurrection of something we haven't been doing for a while. COVID and other things have kind of changed some of our practices. We reintroduced the volunteer dinner, and we will be recognizing our volunteers here shortly again. But I really appreciate the time and energy that's given to Woodhaven. And I already kind of blew my punchline. I'm not as good as delivery as Randy is, but he knows that budget time is, my favorite time of the year. He says I get my pocket protector out and I put it in my sleeve and we hunker down and we get after it. But a lot of things are coming for us in the future that we need to start planning for, and we're working towards. We have operational adjustments, we have rule and reg and policy changes that are constantly in front of us, and there will be, those things will come forward. We're gonna talk with the boards of review and the other volunteers to get input and feedback on how we can get better at the things we do. Our financial adversity, inflation is its challenge all of itself. We're currently in an IT upgrade and progression that's gonna take place. We have plans for improvements to the beach and Woodhaven Lake area that will be on next year's budget planning. I encourage you to pay attention to the communications that go out and the information that comes in this next budget cycle. I think the biggest change that's gonna happen is there's still gonna be turnover. When you have 35, 36, 37, 40-year employees, the window's pretty tight. And we are gonna be seeing changes in our administration, changes in our staffing over time, and we're gonna do our best to make those smooth and keep the high standards that we've accomplished. Our infrastructure is also gonna be a challenge. We work in a 5, 10, 15-year window in our budget planning. And as we look at what's going on and coming, we have a major renovation at our Pool 2 facility on the horizon, the very near horizon. Our roads are 10 to 15 years old from their last upgrade and improvement. They are in the next 10 to 15-year window. And our water and sewer water plant, wastewater plant is approaching 70 years old. And so all of those things will require attention and will require challenges. The good news is we got them and we're seeing them coming. And we can start to communicate and we can work through a plan and get you the best solution to that. And that kind of leads into my message today. Woodhaven continues to excel in providing services and facilities at a very affordable level. You don't have to, I don't get out much as staff. But when I get out and I do a vacation or something, I just cannot believe what it costs to go out and recreate with your family. And so I come back and I look at how that is here. So to me, it's okay to be proud of what we have here and what we've accomplished. And I think it is very significant. We're not gonna ever be perfect, but we're gonna work really hard to continue to make Woodhaven the place that it is and the place that you guys choose to come and be owners at. Our goals will be to continue to maintain and improve upon those services and build onto them. Again, I want to thank the board, committee members. I want to thank our staff. There's nothing that we can do from the top without all of the staff. We're a staff of more than 200 at full service. So there's a lot of people, a lot of parts, moving parts that come into it, and all of them are vital to our success. And my message, and again, what we deliver is our interest is to put the association interest first. That's how we want to deliver it, and we know sometimes we will be in conflict with some of you. And at the end of the day, we try to stay in the presence of the association's interest. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank all of you for being owners and supporting this organization. So thank you for your time today. Sorry it took so long.
Thank you, Jeff.
All yours, buddy.
Thanks. Tough act to follow here. I just want to take a moment before we do the State of the Association. At the volunteer dinner, I made a point of, for the board and the board also, you have to realize how hard this group of administrative staff works. They are incredible. They do a great job. Since I became president, I've worked way closer with them than I did in the past, and it's very impressive to see what they do. I actually get told by my wife I talk to them more than I do her. So I do spend a lot of time with them, but they do you should really be proud of these guys, and a round of applause for our staff, I think, is definitely Okay, we'll go back to the agenda. We're both off our soapbox.
Perfect.
I have a report for the State of the Association. If you know and you come to meetings or read my stuff, I try to keep everything very short and sweet. Unfortunately, this is a year's worth, so it's going to be a little bit longer, so bear with if you can. Okay, the State of the Association. To successfully plan for Woodhaven's future, we must look to the past. A review of Woodhaven's fiscal successes and sometimes, deficiencies, along with a thorough evaluation of programs, policies, and rules is important to ensure that we as an organization stay on track with our short and long-term goals. The annual financial audit and corresponding annual report is one method we use to review the state of Woodhaven's finances. In preparation for last year's audit, internal staff discovered several inconsistencies which ultimately led to the discovery of a theft of $333,046 by a former employee. This past March, after a systematic forensic audit and a claims review, we received a final insurance payment on the stolen funds minus the $2,500 deductible, making Woodhaven whole again. While the criminal case against the former employee continues, with the repayment of these funds, we hope to put this unfortunate incident behind us. Beyond finances, Woodhaven's governing documents, including the rules and regs, bylaws, and policies, are evaluated annually to assure they remain relevant and effective for Woodhaven's current needs. Property owners' recommendations and feedback are an important part of this process and played a big role in the adoption of two major rule changes this past year. First, the shed size limits were increased from the previous maximum of 96 square feet to a maximum of 128 square feet. While the overall square footage shed size per lot remains unchanged, increasing the single shed size was requested by many owners of low-speed vehicles who look to store and secure these vehicles in their shed. Additionally, many of our property owners who like to get their exercise on bikes, but at times may need a bit of an assist on the longer rides or up some of our great hills we have, requested that e-bikes be authorized for use at Woodhaven. There's 3 different classes of e-bikes, all with various uses and top speeds. After several months of research, debate, and discussion, a lot of debate and discussion, trust me, the board added a rule by resolution specifically allowing the use of Class 1 e-bikes on Woodhaven's roads and trails. To date, we have not experienced a single issue or concern with either of these rule changes. Several notable capital projects were undertaken during the fiscal year 22-23. The unacceptable material compound was completed and the air burner box put in at the maintenance building. The 4 new pickleball courts, along with the disc golf course, were installed in the Recplex area. A project that didn't get off the ground was the proposed new splash pad aquatic facility. After extensive research, planning, and presentations, our property owners decided that was just not a new facility they wanted this time by a majority of the referendum vote. Moving forward, be assured that your board of directors, committees, and staff will continue to research and present new projects, plan and execute the replacement of current assets, buildings, and amenities, and conduct business and operational finances in the best interest of the association. Thank you. Okay, next item is acknowledgements. Everybody, I'm sure, knows it's our volunteers that really make this place work. Even no matter what we do or what the staff does, we need the volunteers. We have a bunch of different committees and groups that volunteer. What I'm going to do is name each committee, and I'm going to ask if you're here, present, and part of that committee, if you would just stand up for us. We'll start with the section reps. Anybody that's here that's a section rep, would you please stand up? Thank you. Then we'll go to the committees. ESAC Board of Review. Any member from ESAC Board of Review, please stand up. Public Safety Board of Review. Anybody here from there? No.
She's outside.
Heather's outside.
Oh, Heather's outside. Okay. She was here. She just stepped out. Facilities Planning Committee. Anybody here from that? Finance Committee. Anybody here? There we go. Communications Committee. They're all working over here at the table. Deer Management Ad Hoc Committee. Anybody here from that group? Audit Committee. Jeff, myself, and Laura. Also, Amy and Charlie are on there also. Environmental Committee. Right now, it's just Jeff we are going to be appointing because our other two members have actually left the park. They both sold and moved on. So we'll be filling that. But last year, Bill Engelman and Mary Salvatoria, who served on that committee. Okay. Next is member business from the floor. We ask if you come up, if you would just tell us your section and lot number, and come up, and if you have questions or comments for us, please feel free. Please feel free. Going once? Go. Hey, thank you. You saved me from not knowing what to do.
My name is Mark Talavera. I'm section 384 and 85. I have a question regarding well, ultimately we were made whole, but regarding the fraud that Woodhaven had experienced. As a result of that, have there been any changes in process or controls to make sure this doesn't happen again? While I understand we were made whole through the insurance company, just like to know what has been done to make sure this doesn't occur again.
Perfect question for our executive director.
Okay. Did want Laura to? Well,
Pardon?
again, a couple things that I want to make sure you understand is we'll do everything we can so it never happens again. But it. Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
the mic's not working?
That's fine.
Okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Basically, what he was asking is, even though we got all our money back, what have we done to prevent that from happening again in our system?
That's it.
Good for you.
That sums
Is
it
that
up.
good?
All right, so basically, what I want to address is the fact that this, managing money and the challenges with money, is always something that we're faced with here. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last time, unfortunately. It's just a product of the environment we work in. One of the changes that we made right next door here was to go to a coinless system, which really helps to address some of the issues that contributed to this problem. At the end of the day, internal controls were not followed. So we have done a lot to reinstate those internal controls, and then we've emphasized them and added to them. So we've done what we can in our audit, and Laura can help with this if, as you recall, the internal control that we probably can't do anything about is segregation of duties. So when we went through our audit process, there were things that were targeted as potential weaknesses, and segregation of duties is what contributed to this problem. And it then became a lax on policy. So, hopefully 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people will remember this event and stay as diligent and aggressive as we are now after experiencing it. But I can assure you that Amy and Rebecca and the entire finance staff have elevated the checks and balances to make sure we cover as much as we can and protect your assets the best we possibly can.
So if I can expound upon it a little.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
further,
Laura. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So what was found in the audit regarding segregation of duties? And what it says is, due to the small number of people employed in administrative functions, the entity may not be able to fully achieve the ideal segregation of duties. And that is the case because we do have such a small organization running such a large amount of money. Currently, management and the board of directors' oversight and review of accounting information are the best means of preventing and detecting errors and irregularities. So what they've done as far as staff is they've put more checks and balances in place, even more so than what was there. Now, granted, what Jeff said is that they weren't being followed under the previous employee. But now there's a lot more checks and balances, especially with having Rebecca, working for us now and for Jeff. So there, between the board and the association, we have a lot of oversight of a lot of things now, so.
Anything else?
Follow-up question?
Yeah, I was, but then Laura nailed it, so I'm pretty satisfied with that.
If you'd like to discuss it further, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
With you.
I have one other question. With the change to reserves and now qualifying it as reserves, the question I have for you is, what is that dollar amount that you feel comfortable with? And I haven't had the opportunity to read the report yet, but what is the dollar amount that is ideal for the reserve amount?
That's a great question, and as soon as you find a professional that can tell me exactly what that number is, I'll be happy to tell you. I'm gonna tell you what we do, okay? Because the industry does not have a set standard, okay? And this is something actually Dan
They're
and I.
saying they can't hear you in the back.
I'm sorry, yeah, my apologies, okay.
See if that helps.
No, can I have that mic so that I can repeat his question for me?
Okay.
Yeah, these are just for the online, so
Gotcha.
apologize for that. Okay, how's this sound? All right. The question that was asked was, how do you determine whether your reserves are adequate or not? And what is the measuring stick for how you determine that? Okay, so for Dan and I, this has been kind of an education for both of us, with his experience from municipal governance and then my experience from private association industry. The term reserves means a lot of different things. In municipal governance, from what Dan has taught me, is that it's determined by 1 year's worth of operating costs, is a general perspective. Okay. In our industry, the one that you are a member of, and in the private association industry, it's measured by the value of your assets. And so there's an interpretation that has to be applied to what is the value of your assets and what is an adequate number of reserves to have to support the assets that you have. So it's a little different, because it's based on those things. So when you get into the minutia and the detail, and you get a little bit of that here in the audit report, you're gonna see in pages 26, 27, 28, when you look through this, there's some measurements that are provided to evaluate how you believe your reserve is either appropriately funded or adequately funded. We use a combination of a cash flow approach and then a assessment of percent funded compared to 100% funded reserve. That's a lot of information for people to digest and get. But when you look at, for example, page 26, first name again? Mark. Great question on this, and it's an issue that we continually manage and changes. But if you look at page 26, it's going to show that the components of our fund balance for the association asset reserves was $12,168,990. Okay, that's a lot of money for just about anybody. That seems like a lot of money. If you look at the estimated future replacement cost of the assets that's supporting, it's $148,542. It's a small number compared to that. So there's all kinds of variables that go into it, because you can have useful lives anywhere from next year to 20, 30, 40 years from now. And all of those things are incorporated into the plan. So I gotta find it. So the last paragraph on page 27 kind of outlines our position and what our goal is as an organization. So our goal as an organization is to stay above 30% funded. Kind of a general industry standard, if you're below 30%, it's considered underfunded. 30 to 70 is moderate funding, and anything over 70 is considered fully funded. But those are very general guidelines. They are not specific There's no specific rule to that. If you lived in a townhome community or a condominium community and your sole asset was your roof, you might have to be closer to 100% funded as that asset comes to being due. Because Woodhaven is so diverse, there's so many assets and there's so much involved, I think we can get away with being at least above 30 and managing through our peaks and valleys and expenses. So that last paragraph kind of explains the association reserve. And it says estimated that the fiscal year 2024. So we're estimating our future reserves based on where we were at March 31, 23. And they said that if we wanted to assess for 100% funded for the reserves, it would be $3,889,000 in assessments for reserves. Okay? We entered the budget process and assessed 39% of that number. So $1,501,760 is applied to this current year budget that you're operating in for your reserves. That includes all of your replacement projects, all your new projects that are scheduled and approved, and building for your future projects that are on the horizon. So based on the projected expenditures and the stated contributions, we are estimating that we would be at 79% of the recommended study at the end of March 24. So that falls within our window, and we feel good about that. From a budget planning standpoint, we tend to push closer to the 30% when we project out in 10 and 15-year increments. And we hope to have more budget wins than failures along the way. Get more wins than losses, you usually have a surplus and you have a better thing, and then we can reinvest that back to you and manage that for you. Same thing's done for the water and sewer fund, but in short, the 30 to 70% is our minimum standard. We try to stay above 70% funded.
Does that answer for you? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have comments from the floor? You can be next, ma'am. No, go ahead. I was talking. You need a mic here.
I just wanted to, first triangle, section 24. I just wanted to give kudos to whoever came up with the chart on the bottom of 25. I think it's excellent information for folks. One question I have is, if and when we get to a point we have to do something to address the deer, would that fall under the grounds category?
Okay, Chris, I just want to make sure, I want to make sure I understand your question. With regard to the chart, you're asking if it falls under grounds?
Correct.
Okay.
Great chart.
I understand. Okay, so I'm going to say probably not, because there's no physical asset, there's no capital asset that's involved with the deer management program. That would come out of your operating budget most likely. This represents improvements on our grounds. So our trail system, those types of things are what are included in there. But anything dealing with expenses for deer management or any kind of, that will be an operating cost. It will probably flow through the resource management department. Okay.
Thank you.
I like your shirt. Yes. I went to one for the first time on my trip to Waco.
Sharon Kelly, section 9, 189, 190. And I don't know if it's addressed before because we don't come to everything. I don't follow all the websites and everything. So the lake side building that was closed after the tornado with the damage, what is the amount of damage? Is there a project in place to get that repaired?
Well, at the moment, everybody knows that it's closed down because of the structural issue. We've had engineers out to check that out and came up with ideas, in order to reinforce the roof and give some additional life to the building. So at this time, we went back to staff and asked them to work on that option or look at replacement of that building and the value of that building, you know, to the property owners. So we'll be studying that more. I don't know if that's coming up at budget or waiting till next year. Yeah, it'll be up in the budget meetings that are coming up. And we'll be discussing it at that time and what we're gonna move forward, what it's gonna be like, and then that'll be presented to everyone.
Is that answer for you? Okay. And it will remain closed until that point something's done. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Liz Moran Selk. We're owners at 23166. We've been owners for about 5 years. This is my first board and membership meeting, but I just want to appreciate the board and staff for everything that you do and for creating a really welcoming place that I'm happy to bring my 6 and 7-year-olds and spend time here. We always feel good coming here. This is our happy place, happy camper. But I'd like to ensure that everyone feels that way too. So despite how we all look in this room, this is a really wonderfully diverse community and becoming more and more diverse owners here. And that's why I was disappointed to see this summer that there's a neighbor flying a Confederate flag here. And this causes real harm to others. And it makes other people here feel less welcomed and less included in this community. And I really want this to be a happy place for everyone. So I'd like to ask the board to consider if this kind of thing is okay in this community.
Okay. Any board member want to say anything? Otherwise, I'll, okay. I personally was not aware. I think we have to look into it and see what can be done. There's certain things we can do and can't do and enforce, unfortunately, and we have to follow the rules and regs of our association, but I definitely think we'll talk about it as a board. I'm sorry, I could not hear.
Is there a committee that could try to address it?
Well, I don't have a committee to address it. The board will have to definitely discuss it because they would have to make the change if there's a change needed to do it.
Unfortunately, I think it also comes down to a free speech issue. Unfortunately, I've seen the flag that you're talking about. I've seen other flags. Some people fly Trump flags, and it would really have to come down to a free speech issue and the effect that it has on other people. So we can talk about it. I don't know that we're going to be able to address it. We don't disagree with you. For some people, they'll say it's not a representation of hatred, it's a representation of their heritage. And that gets into a debate and conversation that you're never going to be able to win. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we will discuss it. And if you want to keep in touch with us, we can tell you where that conversation goes. Okay, thank you. Somebody over here had their hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead, you were next.
Just to that point, the lot's for sale, so by the time you guys get to it, it'll be gone. Oh, wait, and I don't mean that in a negative way, like, by the time you get it.
Thank you.
You know, just another comment on that.
I have no answer for that, thank you.
In an HOA, you can only,
Can you give your name and lot again, please?
Chris Prangle, Section 24. In an HOA, you can only fly the American flag. So can you explain how nonprofit recreational versus residential would be different?
Actually, I can tell you I'm in an HOA and I've been on a board of an HOA, and that information is not accurate. They do have other options of flags. They just have to get them approved in their association. It's not, they do not ban all flags except American flags. It's whatever your association decides is appropriate for them.
And actually, I want to clarify, they prevent you from banning the American flag. They do not they don't say that's the only flag. So the law was put in place because some associations were preventing people from flying the American flag. And they changed regulations and stated that you could not do that as an act of patriotism. So it did not tell you what flags you could fly. It just said you can't prevent them from flying the American flag.
Do we have anybody else that would like to come up? Okay. Oh, you have something?
If anybody doubts what I'm gonna say, my lie detector's over here. She'll let you know if I'm not telling the truth. Frank Mucci, section 14-2. So, you know, when a team wins, you know, the coach and the players, they all get accolades. But when the team loses, who do they blame? Our team is a winning team. And it starts with the board. And from the board being a winning board, that percolates down to all of the departments and all of the staff. So I want to first start out saying I have the utmost faith in the board. I don't have questions about the finances because I know you're going to deal with it. I know a checkbook and I know when I'm making money, but beyond that, I don't have anything to say. And number two, facilities management. I don't know if you call them building and grounds or whatever, but you know, go to a concert, look around. When it's quiet, take a look at the grounds, and you'll see what a fantastic job's going on with that. And if you do have concerns, you know, just think about it and present them. And 99% of the time, you're going to find out that's on a list, just like your repair lists at home. Take one off the top, one adds to the bottom. It never goes away. And so they're going to be aware of any concerns. The next thing is, you know, I have a deep feeling for the lifeguards and the jobs that they do. I realize they, in my opinion, they're the face of our community. They interact with most everybody, most of the time, most days. And I want to compliment them for how well they do, for these young people to do what they do and the responsibilities that they have. And if I could enter into the records of these minutes, the article that was in the newsletter maybe 2 publications ago about the rescue that was done, if we can officially enter that into the minutes, I didn't bring it for reference. And I think that's important because to support them, what they do in their training and in the materials that they need, to have that on record supports that because they are so important to our safety and our recreation and our well-being, so I hand it to them. The next, the young people at the ice cream counter. I mean, you know, all the ice cream scoop kids that work there, they're awesome. And again, they do a good job because they know they have support from the top. You know how it is in your life. If you have no support from the top, you're not going to do your job as well. So management supports them in their needs, and I applaud you for that. Concerning the flags, you know, it's a free country. There's been a lot of battles, and if we start limiting what...
Okay, Rob, let's not,
Hey, Frank?
Free country still.
yeah, go ahead, finish.
Finish?
No, I'm trying to stop. I don't want any conversation
Okay.
between lot owners.
Oh, yeah, I won't do that. I'm not gonna do that. So, the concern is, if we start limiting one display,
Yes.
I haven't yielded my time yet.
But you only get a
You're
limited
getting
amount, so
close,
you're
so
getting
go ahead.
close.
Well, I could stop right now. That's fine. I could stop.
Thank you. Keep that one away. Okay, anybody else like to come up and speak? That's what I was gonna ask for next. Thank you very much. I need you to give your name and lot number, please.
Thank you.
And do I have a second? Okay, one more time, because 3 people talked.
Mitchell, 16, 79 and 80.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody I know there's nobody opposed, but thank you. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.